السلام عليكم أعزائي طلبة السادس العلمي لمدارس المتميزين وكلية بغداد. نبتدئ درسنا 11 لهذا اليوم إن شاء الله بموضوع الأنسجة الرابطة Connective Tissues. In today's lecture we will start with connective tissues. Connective tissues. الأنسجة الرابطة. The connective tissue is the tissue that connects and supports. So it is responsible for connecting and supporting. It connects and supports the different parts of the body. Thus, it is referred to be as supporting tissue. So the connective tissues are responsible for connecting and supporting. What does it connect and support? It connects and supports different parts of the body. إذن النسيج الرابط هو النسيج الذي يقوم بربط أجزاء الجسم المختلفة وربطها. إسناد وربط. لذلك يطلق على الأنسجة الضامة بالأنسجة الساندة supporting tissues. They are supporting tissues. So the connective tissues are described as supporting tissues. Why? Explain why. The answer would be because connective tissues connect and support different parts of the body. إذن لماذا تعتبر الأنسجة الضامة هي أنسجة ساندة؟ لأنها تربط أجزاء الجسم المختلفة وتسندها. هذا هو التعليل وهذه هي إجابتهم. The connective tissues consist of connective tissues consist of what? First, it is consisted of cells. The second is fibers. And the third is the intercellular substance. Intercellular substance, which is known as matrix. From the previous lecture, we had the epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue was composed of cells and matrix intercellular substance, but it does not have fibers, while in connective tissues we realize that they are consisted of cells, intercellular substance in addition to fibers. So we didn't take fibers in epithelial tissue. إذن تتكون الأنسجة الضامة من خلايا وألياف إضافة إلى مادة بين خلوية وأحيانا نسميها بالقالب. بالنسبة للأنسجة الطلائية في الدرس السابق ذكرنا أنها تتألف من خلايا ومادة بين خلوية إن كانت هناك كمية قليلة من المادة بين خلوية، لكن لم نذكر أن لها ألياف. أما الأنسجة الرابطة فلها خلايا ومادة بين خلوية، وإضافة إلى ذلك تمتلك الألياف. Now we come to each part of the contents of the connective tissues. First, we will have the cells. We will talk about cells of connective tissues. The cells of connective tissues are separate from each other. That means the cells have a distance between a connective cell and another connective cell. While in epithelial tissue, the cells were connected to each other by cell junction. In epithelial tissue, we had the cells of epithelial tissue. They were connected to each other, and they are connected by the plasma membranes through cell junctions or plasmic junctions. While in connective tissue, the cells are apart from each other, so they are separate. They are separate cells. They are separate. Separate cells. And there are several types of these cells, and they serve various functions. The major types of the connective tissue cells are the list below, which shows the different types of connective tissue cells. إذن خلايا الأنسجة الضامة عادة هذه الخلايا تكون منفصلة عن بعضها البعض، في حين أخذنا في الدرس السابق بالنسبة للأنسجة الطلائية كانت الخلايا متصلة مع بعضها البعض، تكاد تكون المادة البينية معدومة، فترتبط من خلال أغشيتها الخلايا الطلائية من خلال أغشيتها بواسطة الروابط الخلوية أو الروابط البلازمية. لا نجد الروابط البلازمية هنا لأن الخلايا تكون منفصلة ومبتعدة عن بعضها البعض الآخر، ولدينا أنواع مختلفة من خلايا الأنسجة الرابطة التي تنجز وظائف مختلفة. ونأتي إلى أهم هذه الخلايا سنذكرها، وهي محددة تقريبا. لدينا 6 أنواع بتفصيل إضافة إلى نوعين إضافيين هنا في الشرح سيذكرها لاحقا. So now we come to the types of connective tissue cells. The first type of cells is the fibroblast. The first one is fibroblast. This is the most known type of connective tissue cell. Fibroblast, also it is known as الأرومة الليفية. This type of connective tissue cell, it is the most common type in the connective tissue. So the fibroblast is the most common type in the connective tissue. The most common type of cells in the connective tissues. This type of cell is characterized by what? It has the or we can say that it is shows a large in size when we compare it with the other types of connective tissue cells. So it is characterized with the big size and long endings. So it has big size, long endings. The fibroblast is the most common type of connective tissue cells. Second, it has a big size. Third, it has long endings of their bodies. They are flat, spindle-shaped cells. Flat, spindle-shaped cell. Fusiform. When we draw this cell, it shows from the lateral side, it shows spindle-shaped fusiform, which is a big size cell with long endings, and it is a flat fusiform cell. But when we look at it from the top, it shows like having long endings like that. It is flat, fusiform from the side, but it has long endings and it is flat. It has a nucleus and cytoplasm, so the cell has a large oval nucleus and homogeneous cytoplasm. It is an oval nucleus and homogeneous cytoplasm. Oval nucleus and homogeneous cytoplasm. إذن نأتي إلى صفات الخلية المعروفة بالأرومة الليفية، وهي أكثر الخلايا شيوعاً في الأنسجة الضامة، وتمتاز بأن لها حجم كبير بكبر حجمها، ولها بروزات طويلة، وتبدو في المظهر الجانبي بأنها مغزلية الشكل، ولها نواة كبيرة بيضاوية الشكل، ولها سيتوبلازم متجانس أي غير محبب. سيتوبلازم متجانس غير محبب. هذا هو شكل الخلية المعروفة بالأرومة الليفية. And an oval nucleus, it is a large, which is large oval nucleus. What is the function of this type of cell? It is responsible for the basic function of the fibroblast is to produce all types of fibers. We said that the connective tissue consists of fibers. So who is responsible for producing the fibers of the connective tissue? The answer is the fibroblast. This cell is responsible for the formation or producing all types of fibers of the connective tissue. So the basic function is producing all types of fibers in the connective tissues. Its basic function is produce all types of fibers in the connective tissue. So who is responsible for the formation of the connective tissue fibers? The answer is the fibroblast. This was the first type of connective tissue cells. Now we come to another type of connective tissue cells, which is the macrophage. The second one would be the macrophage. This type of connective tissue cells, it is an amoebic cell with short stretches when it is compared to the stretches of the fibroblast. So it is an amoebic cell. First, it is amoebic cell. That means it has stretches, but the stretches here are short, with short stretches, while the fibroblast had long endings or long stretches. إذن الماكروفاج التي تعرف بالبلعم الكبير. هذه الخلايا تكون أميبية الشكل لأن لها بروزات، فتكون أميبية الشكل واضحة، لكن بروزاتها قصيرة عند مقارنتها مع بروزات الخلية الأرومة الليفية. The nucleus of this cell is not central. نواة هذه الخلية ليست مركزية الموقع. The nucleus is not central. It has stretches, yes, but they are short stretches. And the nucleus is not central because when it moves, because it has an amoebic cell, so it moves by making the stretches all the time. As we know that this type of cell has pseudopodia to move, so the nucleus never stays in the middle, so that's why the nucleus is not central. إذن هذه الخلية البلعمية بما أنها تتحرك بتكوين الأقدام الكاذبة، فهذه الحركة المستمرة تؤدي إلى تكوين هذه الامتدادات القصيرة، وأيضا النواة لن تبقى مركزية الموقع، لذلك نقول أن نواتها ليست مركزية لأنها تتحرك باستمرار بتكوين الأقدام الكاذبة. What is the function for this type of cell? The major function of this cell is to attack the foreign substances within the tissue. So the function is mainly defensive. So the function for this type of cell is to attack the foreign substances within the tissue. So its function is defensive. When the question is which type of connective tissue cells that is responsible for defensive, the answer would be the macrophage. The function for the fibroblast was producing all types of fibers, connective tissue fibers, while the function for the macrophage is defensive by attacking foreign substances within the tissue. إذن بالنسبة للخلية البلعمية، هذه الخلية تقوم بالتهام الجزيئات الغريبة التي تقع ضمن النسيج، بمعنى أن هي الخلية توجد ضمن الأنسجة، وبوجودها بداخل النسيج تقوم بالتهام الجسيمات الغريبة فتخلص النسيج من الإصابات، فهي لها دور دفاعية تحمي الجسم من الإصابات بالتحديد بالنسيج التي هي موجودة فيه. Now we come to the third type of connective tissue cells. The third one here is the adipose cell. Adipose الخلية الدهنية. Adipose cell. This cell here is spherical, so it has, this is C, it is spherical in appearance, and it contains one fat droplet. It contains one fat droplet. This droplet occupies most of the cell, occupies most of the cell. Now we come to the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm of this cell takes the shape of a thin ring. The cytoplasm takes a shape of a thin ring. This cell is spherical. The cytoplasm here would have a droplet, a big droplet. This droplet here contains fat. So all of this here is the fat inside the droplet. This is the droplet that contains fat. So because it occupies most of the cell, that means here is the cytoplasm has been pushed and it looks like a ring. Here is the cytoplasm. And here would be the nucleus inside the cytoplasm. This is the nucleus here. Which is surrounded by the cytoplasm, like that. So this cell is spherical. It contains a fat droplet that occupies most of the cell. So it pushes the cytoplasm and the cytoplasm here takes the shape of a thin ring. The nucleus here is going to be flattened and located on the cell periphery. The nucleus is flattened and located on the cell periphery. Why is the nucleus flattened and located on the cell periphery? Because it is pushed by the fat droplet that occupies most of the cell. إذن هذه الخلية adipose cell الخلية الدهنية تكون الخلية كروية الشكل spherical in appearance كروية الشكل وتحتوي على قطيرة دهنية. هذه القطيرة الدهنية تشغل معظم حجم الخلية. فالسيتوبلازم فيها يكون بشكل حلقة نحيفة. وأيضا النواة ستصبح هنا مسطحة وذات موقع محيطي أي جانبية الموقع. ما سبب كون السيتوبلازم بشكل حلقة هكذا رفيعة والنواة تكون مسطحة وجانبية؟ بسبب اندفاعها السيتوبلازم وكذلك النواة من اندفاعها بسبب إلى الجانب وبسبب أنه القطيرة الدهنية تكون كبيرة وتشغل معظم حجم الخلية. Now we come to the function for this type of cell. Because it has a fat droplet, that means it's going to store fat. And why does it store fat? Because this fat is used for generating energy and maintaining thermal balance of the body. So the adipose cell stores fat. So its function is stores fat, and this fat is used to generate energy. So it stores fat to generate energy and maintain thermal balance. Stores fat to generate energy and maintain thermal balance. Very important. The function is very important here. Maybe the question would be who is responsible for the formation of generating energy or maintaining thermal balance. The answer would be the adipose cell. And when we compare it with the previous cells, both the fibroblast and the macrophage had stretches while the adipose cell was spherical. إذن الخلية الدهنية وظيفتها هنا تقوم بخزن الدهون. بماذا تستخدم هذه الدهون المخزونة؟ تستخدمها لتوليد الطاقة وحماية الشخص أو الفرد من فقدان الحرارة. الوظائف جدا مهمة. وعند مقارنة هذه الخلية مع الخلايا السابقة، الخلية الأروماليفية والملعم الكبير كلاهما لها بروزات، أما الخلية الدهنية هنا لا تمتلك بروزات بل هي خلية كروية الشكل. So now we have took 3 types of connective tissue cells. We come to the fourth type of connective tissue cells, which is the mesenchymal cell. Mesenchymal cell. mesenchymal cell الخلية الحشوية المتوسطة. mesenchymal cell الخلية الحشوية المتوسطة. This type of connective tissue cell is an undifferentiated cell. It is an undifferentiated with cytoplasmic stretches. So it has cytoplasmic stretches. Also, it has a central oval nucleus. Central oval nucleus. This cell has stretches with a central oval nucleus. This is a central oval nucleus. And it has stretches. It is an undifferentiated cell. Here in the animal tissue, we mentioned an undifferentiated cell. We had also an undifferentiated cell in plant tissue, which was the meristematic tissue. They were undifferentiated cells. When the questionnaire gives an example of an undifferentiated plant cell, the answer would be the meristematic tissue cells. But when it asks about an undifferentiated animal cell, the answer would be the mesenchymal cell. إذن الخلية الحشوية المتوسطة، هذه الخلية أيضا هي من ضمن خلايا النسيج الضام، وتعتبر هذه الخلايا خلايا نسيج ضام، تعتبر جنينية. توجد في الأجنة بشكل عام، وأيضا توجد في الإنسان البالغ، لكن بالأساس هي توجد في الأجنة بشكل عام. وهذه الخلايا تكون غير متخصصة undifferentiated، غير متخصصة، وتحتوي على بروزات سيتوبلازمية. إضافة إلى احتوائها على نواة، والنواة بيضاوية ومركزية الموقع. هنا لأول مرة نذكر نواة مركزية للخلايا النسيج الضام، حيث في الخلية الدهنية كانت جانبية الموقع، بالنسبة للبلعم الكبير كانت غير مركزية، كذلك بالنسبة للأورام الليفية تكون غير مركزية الموقع. صح لم يذكر، لكن هي بشكل عام ليست مركزية. المركزية هي النواة المركزية الموقع هي في الميسنكيمال cell. And now we come to the function for this type of cell here, and the main function of mesenchymal cell lies in its ability to differentiate. We said it is undifferentiated, so it has the ability to differentiate. To what? It differentiates into any other type of cells in adult connective tissue. So it has the ability to differentiate into what? Into any other type of cells in adult connective tissue. Which means when the question is who is responsible for the formation of these different types of connective tissue cells, the answer would be the mesenchymal cell. إذا الوظيفة التي تخص الخلية الحشوية المتوسطة هي كونها، بما أنها غير متميزة فهي سوف تتمايز إلى أي نوع من أنواع خلايا النسيج الضام لدى البالغين. فعندما يكون السؤال من المسؤول عن إنتاج أي نوع من خلايا النسيج الضام، الجواب يكون الخلية الحشوية المتوسطة. If the question was mention the origin for the adipose cell, or mention the origin for macrophage, or the origin for the fibroblast, the answer would be the mesenchymal cell. While the fibers are originated from the fibroblast, while the cells of the connective tissues, all the types of cells of the connective tissues, are originated from the mesenchymal cell. إذن خلايا النسيج الضام جميعها تنشأ، هذه الخلايا تنشأ من الخلية الحشوية المتوسطة، أما ألياف النسيج الضام المسؤول عن إنشائها هي الأغومة الليفية. And now we took 4 types of connective tissue cells. 3 of them had stretches, while 1 of them was spherical. The 3 ones that had stretches was the mesenchymal cell, the macrophage, and the fibroblast. And now we come to the 5th type of connective tissue cells, which is the plasma cell. Plasma cell. الخلية البلازمية. النوع الخامس الخلية البلازمية، أيضا نوع من أنواع خلايا النسيج الضام. The plasma cell is relatively small, spherical or oval cell. So it is small, it may be spherical or oval. So now we have a second one which is spherical. The first one was the adipose. The second one, which has a spherical appearance or maybe oval, it is the plasma cell. This cell here, it says it has non-central nucleus with non-central nucleus. So till now, the cell that has a central nucleus was the mesenchymal cell only. The plasma cell here has a non-central nucleus. And what do we recognize inside the nucleus? The nucleus has a chromatin substance. Here it says the chromatin substance of the cell is arranged in array-like in a characteristic cartwheel or clock face arrangement. So a non-central nucleus with a chromatin network or substance that is arranged in a ray-like in a characteristic cartwheel or clock face arrangement. Here is a plasma cell, maybe oval or spherical. The nucleus is non-central and it has a chromatin substance or chromatin network with an appearance here as a cartwheel or a clock face arrangement. This is very, very important characteristic here for the plasma cell. Sometimes it asks mention the characteristics of the nucleus of the plasma cell. So here we should say that the nucleus for this cell is not central with a chromatin substance or network that is arranged in array-like in a characteristic cartwheel or clock face arrangement. إذن الخلية البلازمية هذه الخلية تكون كروية أو بيضاوية الشكل وهي صغيرة بالحجم نسبيا. نواتها تكون لا مركزية الموقع وتتميز نواتها بأن المادة الكروماتينية فيها مرتبة بشكل شعاعي بحيث تعطي شكل مميز. هذا الشكل يكون يشبه عجلة العربة أو وجه الساعة. صفة واضحة ومميزة للخلية البلازمية. الصفة الثالثة, the third characteristic here is it has a cytoplasm also, and the cytoplasm here is homogeneous. It has a homogeneous cytoplasm. Here it says it has the cytoplasm of the cell is homogeneous. That means it is not spotted or something like that. It is homogeneous. What is this cell responsible for? The function. The plasma cells are responsible for secreting antibodies. It secretes, forms proteins like that, which are known as antibodies, or sometimes we call it antibodies. Antibodies or antibodies. These antibodies are defensive also, so it's responsible for body protection. Plasma cell is responsible for body protection. Why? Because it forms the antibodies into the blood, and these antibodies have an important role in body protection. So now we have the macrophages are responsible for defensive, for attacking foreign substances, but plasma cells are responsible for the formation of antibodies, which is responsible for body protection. Here, number 4, these cells are responsible for secreting antibodies, and these antibodies playing an important in body protection. إذن هذه الخلية تكون مسؤولة عن تكوين الأجسام المضادة، بذلك فهي لها دور مهم في حماية الجسم من الإصابات. إذن أصبح لدينا نوعين من الخلايا تقوم بالدفاع أو الحماية. الأولى هي الخلية البلعمية. هذه الخلية البلعمية قلنا بأنها لها دور دفاعي من خلال قضائها على الأجسام الغريبة التي تدخل الجسم. وبالنسبة للبلازما سيل، الخلية البلازمية أيضا لها دور في حماية الجسم من خلال تكوين الأجسام المضادة. And now we come to the 6th type of connective tissue cells, which is the mast cell. Mast cell، الخلية البدينة، the mast cell. This cell here is a very common in connective tissues. They are big and spherical. These type of cells are big and spherical. So now we had 3 cells in the connective tissue cells. We said that they are spherical: the mast cell, the plasma cell, the adipose cell. We mentioned 3 cells that have stretches: the mesenchymal cell, the fibroblast, and the macrophage. 3 with stretches and 3 spherical cells. So it is big and spherical in appearance. Now we come to its nucleus. It has a small non-central nucleus. So the only cell that we said that it has a nucleus, a central nucleus, was the mesenchymal cell. It is the only cell here that has a central. All other cells have non-central nucleus. Now we come to its cytoplasm. Its cytoplasm is non-homogeneous because it appears to be granular. So it is non-homogeneous. إذن الخلية البدينة هي هذه الخلية طبعا تكون واسعة الانتشار very common in the connective tissue. Very common in the connective tissue. It is big and spherical. It is small and non-central nucleus, and its cytoplasm appears to be granular. إذن هذه الخلايا واسعة الانتشار ضمن الأنسجة الضامة. هذه تأتي بعد الفايبروبلاست، الخلية الأولى. هذه قلنا عليها أنها الأكثر شيوعا. بعدها تأتي الخلية البدينة واسعة الانتشار ضمن النسيج الضام، وتكون كروية الشكل وكبيرة الحجم. أما بالنسبة للنواة فنواتها تكون صغيرة وغير مركزية الموقع. السيتوبلازم فيها يكون محبب فهو غير متجانس. سبب التحبب وجود حبيبات موجودة في داخل السيتوبلازم سنذكرها. هذه الحبيبات هي حبيبات الهيبارين والهستامين، لذلك يكون السيتوبلازم محبب فغير متجانس. هذه الوحيدة التي ذكرنا فيها أن السيتوبلازم يكون به حبيبات، وهي الخلية البدينة. So now we come to its function here. It has, or it contains, histamine and it contains heparin. I would call it heparin, histamine and heparin. These two proteins here are found inside the cytoplasm and they are responsible for making it granular. إذا سبب تحبب السيتوبلازم هي وجود المادتين الهستامين والهيبارين. هذه البروتينات وجودها في سيتوبلازم الخلية البدينة تجعل سيتوبلازمها محبب. What is the histamine responsible for? It plays an important role in the contraction of smooth muscles. It is responsible for, plays an important role in. First, important role in contraction of smooth muscles of the pulmonary bronchioles. Also, it contributes in expansion of blood capillaries. To increase the exuding ability. So the histamine plays an important role in, first, in the contraction of smooth muscles of the pulmonary bronchioles. Second, it has role in it contributes in expansion of blood capillaries to increase their exuding ability. What does that mean? The first one here, when we come to the respiratory system, here we have the bronchioles that extend into the lungs. So what we know about it, that during breathing, sometimes when we laugh, or sometimes eating something and laughing or things like that, sometimes the food or any foreign substance enters to the bronchioles. So what helps us to get rid of these foreign things that entered into the bronchioles? And we know that these bronchioles are supposed to be only for the air, not for any other substances like food or foreign materials. So these bronchioles, this bronchiole and its extendings, are surrounded by smooth muscle. So the histamine has its effects on these smooth muscles. When these muscles contract, that means these pulmonary bronchioles are going to contract also. So it aids in coughing. So we start to cough. Why do we cough? So that we can get rid of any type of foreign substances or obstacles that have entered to the pulmonary system. So that is a very important role for the defense. Now, I'm going to repeat it. The histamine has its effects on the smooth muscles that surround the pulmonary bronchioles. Why? Because sometimes when foreign substances enters to the pulmonary system, to the respiratory system, so it needs to get rid of these foreign substances or food that had entered accidentally into to the lungs or to the bronchioles. So what does the histamine do here? It aids in the contraction of the smooth muscles, so they contract the pulmonary bronchioles and they force them to make us cough. So when we cough, we are going to get rid of the foreign substances that have entered to the respiratory system. So it is a type of defensive or protection for our body. The second role for histamine is when we have these capillaries, And we suppose that here this is a part of our body, and here is the capillary. And we had an infection, any type of infection in our tissues, maybe on the skin or inside the tissues of our body. What we need here is to get rid of any infection that has occurred inside these tissues. We know that the blood has white BCs, that means white blood cells that are defensive, and we need these cells to protect our body and to get rid of any foreign bodies or anything that has affected the tissues. So some of these cells need to leave the capillary and enter the tissues so that it can fight these foreign substances and protect and work as a defensive for the body. So what occurs here? The histamine affects the capillaries, and that means the walls of the capillaries, if they were like that, when it's affected, it makes it expand. When it expands like that, so there will be some spaces that aids in the white blood cells to leave the capillary and enter the tissue. So that's why here it says that it contributes in the expansion of blood capillaries. Why? To increase the exuding ability. Exuding ability, that means it lets the cells that work as defensive would be able to leave the capillary and enter the tissues for the protection and for the defensive role it has. How can these cells leave the capillaries and enter the tissues? That happens after the histamine works on the walls of the capillaries, and they let these walls to expand. When they expand, there will be spaces that aid in the increasing the exudity of these cells to leave the capillary and enter the tissues to get rid of the foreign substances in the tissues. So now we have reported two main functions for the histamine. First is on the smooth muscles that surround the pulmonary bronchioles, and the second in it aids in the expansion of the blood capillaries to increase the exuding ability. That was for the histamine. The second protein that is found in the cytoplasm of mast cells is the heparin. Heparin here, it is an active substance. This substance prevents blood coagulation. Heparin prevents blood coagulation. Normally, our blood does not coagulate, because if it coagulates, we will have a heart attack. That means clots that occurs in our blood, and which is not good for us, and maybe it leads to death. So what prevents our blood from clotting in a normal phase is heparin, which prevents blood coagulation. This is also a defensive role for the mast cell. So the mast cell is responsible for the formation of histamine and heparin. If the question was, what is the origination for, or what is the origin for the heparin and what is the origin for histamine, the answer would be the mast cells. Where can we find them? Where can we find them? We find them in the cytoplasm of mast cells. Who is responsible for the formation of antibodies? The answer would be plasma cells. Who is responsible for the formation of histamine or heparin? The answer would be the mast cell. Who is responsible for the formation of connective tissue cells? The answer would be mesenchymal cell. Who is responsible for generating energy, maintaining thermal balance? The answer would be the adipose cell. Who is responsible for the formation of connective tissue fibers? The answer would be fibroblast. Who is responsible for attacking foreign substances within the tissue? The answer would be macrophage. Until now, we had 3 cells that are spherical and 3 cells that have stretches. إذا بالنسبة للخلية البدينة ذكرنا بأنها لها وظيفة، وظيفتها تأتي من خلال احتوائها على الهستامين والهيبارين. الهستامين يلعب دور مهم في تقلص العضلات الملساء ضمن القصيبات الرئوية، وأيضا له دور في توسيع الشعيرات الدموية من أجل زيادة قابليتها النضوحية. ووضحنا بأن عند دخول أي جسم غريب أو غذاء أو عند الضحك أو غيرها تدخل أجسام غريبة إلى الجهاز التنفسي، وتحديدا إلى القصبة الهوائية وإلى القصيبات الرئوية. فعند دخول هذه الأجسام غريبة فكيف يدافع الجسم عن نفسه؟ يدافع من خلال تقوم الماست سيل بإفراز الهستامين. هذا الهستامين يؤثر على العضلات الملساء المحيطة بالقصيبات الهوائية والقصبة الهوائية الرئيسية، فيؤثر على العضلات الملساء وهذه تقوم بالتقلص. تقلصها يؤدي إلى تقلص القصيبات لأجل إجبار الجسم على إخراج هذه الأجسام الغريبة التي دخلت، فيؤدي إلى عملية الكوفينج، فبالتالي يقوم الجسم بالتخلص من الأجسام الغريبة التي دخلت إلى الجهاز التنفسي، أي يساعد على السعال، يسعل الإنسان حتى يخرج الجسم الغريب الذي دخل إلى القصبة الهوائية. الوظيفة الدفاعية الثانية التي يقوم بها الهستامين إنه الشعيرات الدموية يؤثر على جدرانها، يجعلها تزداد في قابليتها النضوحية، أي تتوسع نوعا ما لتسمح بالخلايا الدفاعية المختلفة بما فيها كرات الدم البيض من أن تخرج من الوعاء الدموي لتصل إلى الأماكن الإصابة التي موجودة في الجسم، سواء كانت على الجلد أو ضمن الأنسجة. فنحتاج إلى الدفاع السريع، فالهستامين يؤثر على جدران الوعاء الدموي الشعيرات ويجعلها تتمدد، فتخرج الخلايا الدفاعية من الوعاء الدموي إلى الأنسجة لأجل الدفاع. أما النوع الآخر من الحبيبات الموجودة في الخلية البدينة وهي الحبيبات الهيبارين، وهذه الهيبارين هذه لها دور في منع تخثر الدم. في الوضع الطبيعي الإنسان دمه لا يتخثر إلا إذا حدثت جروح، يختلف الأمر، لكن عند الوضع الطبيعي لا يتخثر، فإذا تخثر بالوضع الطبيعي يؤدي إلى حصول جلطات أو سكتة قلبية أو قد يؤدي إلى الوفاة. لذلك يحمي الجسم ويمنع من حصول التجلطات هو الهيبارين. إذن منشأ الهيبارين والهستامين هي الخلية البدينة، كلاهما توجد في سيتوبلازم الخلية البدينة. أما منشأ الأجسام المضادة فهي الخلية البلازمية. منشأ الخلايا الأنسجة الرابطة المختلفة هي الحشوة المتوسطة الميزنكيمية. ومنشأ ألياف النسيج الضام هي الأرومة الليفية. الخلية التي تكون دورها دفاعي والتخلص من الأجسام الغريبة هي البلعم الكبير، والخلية التي تعمل على الحفاظ على الفرد من فقدان الحرارة وتعمل على توليد الطاقة هي الخلية الدهنية. إذن أخذنا 6 أنواع بتفصيل. So now we had 6 types of connective tissue cells, and now we come to another 2 types of connective tissue cells here. The seventh one is known as the reticular cell. Here it is mentioned, which is a type of connective tissue cells, and the 8th one is the pigment cell. Pigment cell. So the cells were the fibroblast, the macrophage, adipose cell, mesenchymal cell, plasma cell, mast cell, reticular cell, and pigment cell. We have mentioned 8 types of connective tissue cells. Here it says, in addition to the above mentioned types of cells, there are several other types of cells within the connective tissues, such as the reticular cell and the pigment cell. And here in page 50, we have an image for a type of connective tissue. Here it shows some of these cells that we have mentioned. The fibroblast here, this is a fibroblast, which shows how it is a big cell and it has long stretches. This is a yes, this was the fibroblast, which is responsible for the formation of all types of fibers, connective tissue fibers. Here we have the mesenchymal cell. Also it has stretches, but it is a nucleus is oval and it is central. And here is a macrophage. Also it has stretches, and it has a nucleus which is not central also. Here we have a mast cell, and we can see how it has granules that is responsible for the formation of histamine and heparin. And here is an adipose cell, which shows the big fat droplet inside it, and the nucleus is flattened and peripheral. And this cell here, a pigment cell, this black one here, a pigment cell, which has another name that is known as a melanocyte. So this tissue here shows different types of connective tissue cells. Now we come to the fibers. First we took the cells, and now we come to the fibers. Fibers of connective tissue. Fibers. We have 3 types of fibers. The first type is a white fiber, or it is known collagenous. So we have white or collagenous fibers. The second type is yellow, or it is known as elastic. The third type is reticular. Fibers. So we have white or collagenous fibers, yellow or elastic fibers, and reticular fibers. إذن نأتي إلى ألياف النسيج الضام، والألياف هنا 3 أنواع. النوع الأول هو الأبيض أو نسميه المغراوي، الثاني هو الأصفر أو المرنة، والثالث هي الألياف الشبكية. What is the origin of these fibers? The origin is the fibroblast, as we mentioned before. The fibroblast is responsible for the formation of all these three types of fibers. Maybe the question will be, who is responsible for the formation of the elastic fibers? The same answer, which is the fibroblast. Now we come to the fibers here. The first one is the white or collagenous fiber. White or collagenous fiber. This type of fiber is white. It looks with an appearance of white fiber because its color is white when it is in a live condition. That means when it is fresh. That means the person is not dead. When it dies, it changes in color. So this type of fiber shows white color, so that's why it is known as white. إذن هذا النوع من الألياف يسمى بالأبيض لأنه أبيض في حالة الطراوة، عندما يكون الكائن حي على قيد الحياة، لأن عند موت الكائن يتغير لونه. So it is white when it is in a live condition. Second, these type of fibers are found in the form of bundles. Bundles, that means if this here is known as fibrils, this fibrils. Here we have another one, and another one, and another one. All these fibrils will form fiber, a white fiber. So it is found in bundles. So first it is white when it is in a live condition. Second, it forms bundles. This fiber here, which is formed of fibrils, now we have another fiber here that is consisted of fibrils, so it will form a bundle of fibers, forms bundles. This type of fiber has a mechanical importance. Why does it have a mechanical importance? Because of its resistance to tensity. Because of its resistance to tensity. This is an explanation. When it says explain, white or collagenous fibers have a mechanical importance, the answer would be because of its resistance to tensity. إذا بالنسبة للليف الأبيض، أولا قلنا أن لونه يكون أبيض في حالة الطراوة. ثانيا يشكل حزم، الحزم من الألياف، وكل ليف من هذه الألياف مؤلف من الليفات. هنا هذا الليف مؤلف من الليفات، هنا ليف آخر من الليفات وغيرها كذلك، فمجموعة من الألياف المؤلفة من الليفات تكون مع بعض فتعمل حزم. وهذا الليف له أهمية ميكانيكية. لماذا؟ لأنه يقاوم السحب، أي قليل المطاطية، مقاوم للسحب، لا نستطيع أن نسحبه، يقاوم السحب. إذن وظيفته ميكانيكية لأنه يقاوم السحب، معناته يكون tough قليل المرونة non-flexible. Now we come to the second type of fibers, which is the yellow or elastic. Yellow or elastic fiber. Why do we call it yellow? Because it shows an yellow appearance, because its color is yellow when it is in a live condition. That means when it is fresh, because when the person dies it changes in color. إذن يسمى باللون الأصفر لأنه يكون أصفر في حالة الطرارة عندما يكون الكائن على قيد الحياة، يتغير لونه عند موت الكائن. So that's why it is known as yellow fiber. So it is yellow. Second, this type of fiber is not found in bundles. So it is in a form of single fiber. When we compare between yellow and white fibers, the white fibers are white in color when they are alive condition, while these are yellow in alive condition. Here they are formed in bundles, while yellow or elastic fibers, they are not found in bundles, but they are in the form of single fiber. That means not in bundles. These types of fibers, sometimes they ramify. They can have ramifications and they can easily stretch. That means here they are single and sometimes they ramify. Single fibers, not in bundles, and they can have ramification. Can have ramification. While white fibers do not ramify. And they can easily stretch. Can easily stretch. While white fibers resist stretching, resist tensity. These types of fibers here, or this type of fiber here, is non-elastic, while the yellow are elastic fibers. So they are easily stretching and they are flexible. But they are not as tough as the white fibers because they are flexible, while here they are tough, non-flexible. When we compare between both the white and yellow fibers. إذن بالنسبة لألياف الصفر تسمى بالصفراء لأنها تكون صفراء في حالة الضرارة عندما يكون كائن حي، وتوجد بصورة مفردة وليست بهيئة حزم، وأحيانا تتفرع، بينما البيضاء لا تتفرع، وتكون مرنة وسهلة التمدد عندما نقارنها مع البيضاء، فهي ليست بقوة الألياف البيض. الألياف البيض لا تتمدد كما تتمدد الألياف الصفر. منشأ البيض ومنشأ الصفر من الأرومة الليفية الفايبروبلاست. And now we come to the third type of fibers, the third one, which is the reticular fiber. Reticular fiber. This type of fiber also originated from the fibroblast. It is called reticular because, why? Because these fibers cross-link to form a fine network. They cross-link to form a fine network. So that's why it is known as reticular fiber. The question here is explain why reticular fibers are known as reticular. Because the fibers cross-link to form a fine network. It has thin fibers, it's not in bundles. And where can we find them? Here it is in a very important question. They are found in lymphatic nodes. Very important. What does it do to the lymphatic nodes? It provides it with a structural support. When it asks about the type of fibers that are found in the lymphatic nodes, the answer would be reticular fiber. What is its function here? It gives structural support to the lymphatic nodes. Very important information. إذن الليف الشبكي، هذا الليف يسمى بالشبكي. لماذا؟ لأنه تفرعاته يكون متفرع وتفرعاته تتشابك. الأصفر يتفرع لكن لا يتشابك. هنا تفرعاته تتشابك وتشبه الشبكة، وهي عبارة عن شبكة من الألياف التي تكون رفيعة جدا. أين يوجد؟ ممكن أن نجده في داخل العقد الليمفاوية، وهنا يشكل دعم وإسناد لهذه العقد. طبعا في هذه الصورة in this image here in page 50 this type of fiber here, which shows maybe I can say it's yellow in color, but it should be white. This fiber here is the white fiber, which is in bundles, while this type here that ramifies, it is the yellow fiber. Here that makes a fine network is the reticular fiber. In this tissue we can see the three types of fibers: the white collagenous, the yellow elastic, and the reticular fiber. So now we have took the cells and the fibers of the connective tissue. And now we come to the intercellular substance or the matrix. The third component of connective tissues is the matrix, or it is known as intercellular substance. The intercellular substance of the connective tissue is found in the form of a transparent homogeneous substance. The matrix here of the connective tissue, it is a transparent and homogeneous substance. It has no distinctive shape. And it could be liquid, semi-liquid, gelatinous, and it may be solid. Transparent, homogeneous, no distinctive shape, and it may be liquid, semi-liquid, gelatinous, or solid. Where can I find it? Location. It occupies the spaces. Which spaces? Spaces between cells and fibers of the connective tissue. The matrix of intercellular substance: transparent, homogeneous, non-distinctive shape. It may be liquid, semi or semi-liquid, gelatinous, or solid. Where can I find it? The location. It occupies the spaces between cells and fibers. Very important information. إذا مواصفات المادة البينية بالنسبة للنسيج الضام: تكون مادة شفافة transparent، تكون متجانسة homogeneous، وليس لها شكل معين، ويكون قوامها سائل أو شبه سائل أو جيلاتيني أو صلب. موقعه يشغل المسافات ما بين الخلايا والألياف بالنسبة للنسيج الضام. هنا في هذه المادة باللون الوردي هي المادة البينية matrix القالب. This pink color here is the intercellular substance, the matrix of the connective tissue. So we took the three components of connective tissue. Now, the connective tissue here can be classified. Classified into what? Classification of connective tissue. Connective tissue is first classified into connective tissue proper and special connective tissue. According to what, this classification? Connective tissue here is classified according to the types of cells and the physical characteristic of the intercellular substance. Connective tissue is classified according to the type of cells, the type of connective tissue cells that are found inside the tissue, and according to the physical characteristic of the matrix according to these two, the types of cells in the tissue and the physical characteristic of the matrix. According to these two, it is classified into connective tissue proper, and the second one is special connective tissue. إذن النسيج الضام يصنف إلى نسيج ضام أصيل ونسيج ضام خاص أو متخصص. على ماذا اعتمد هذا التصنيف؟ اعتمد على نوع الخلايا التي توجد ضمن النسيج، إضافة إلى الخواص الفيزيائية للمادة البينية التي هي القالب. إذن بالاعتماد على نوع الخلايا التي توجد في النسيج والخصائص الفيزيائية للمادة البينية، قسم النسيج الضام إلى نوعين: نسيج ضام خاص ونسيج ضام أصيل. Now, this connective tissue here, the connective tissue proper, is also classified. It is classified into two. Into loose connective tissue and dense loose and dense. Connective tissue proper is classified into loose and dense according to what? This connective tissue proper is classified into loose and dense. Loose and dense according to its quantity or density of cells and density of fibers. It says the density or the forming. Here it says connective tissue proper is classified according to its cells and fibers forming. It means the density of the cells and density of fibers inside it. So it is classified into loose connective tissue and into dense connective tissue. So both the loose and dense connective tissues are types of connective tissue proper. And now we come to the loose. نسيج الضام. قلنا يقسم نسيج الضام إلى نوعين اعتمادا على نوع الخلايا وخواص المادة الفيزيائية الخواص الفيزيائية المادة البينية إلى نسيج الضام الأصيل ونسيج الضام الخاص أو المتخصص. الأصيل يصنف إلى نسيج كثيف ونسيج رخو أو مفكك، وإلى الكثيف. هنا رخو أو مفكك وهنا كثيف، اعتمادا على كثافة المحتوى من يعني الخلايا والألياف بداخله. إذا كانت كثيفة فيكون النسيج كثيف، وإذا كانت قليلة يكون رخو أو مفكك. فإذن النسيج الضام الأصيل يقسم إلى رخو وكثيف اعتماد على كثافة الخلايا والألياف التي توجد بداخله. So now we will take the first type, which is the loose connective tissue. The loose connective tissue here also is classified. It is classified into 5 types. What are these 5 types of loose connective tissues? The first one here is the adipose connective tissue. The second one is areolar connective tissue. The third one is reticular connective tissue. The fourth one is mesenchymal connective tissue, and the fifth one is the mucoid connective tissue. So we have 5 types of loose connective tissues. They are adipose, areolar, reticular, mesenchymal, and mucoid. These types of loose connective tissues, which are connective tissue proper. It says here the loose connective tissue is classified according to the cells and fibers forming it. إذن هذا النسيج هنا الرخو أو مفكك صنف تبعا لأي الخلايا والألياف التي تكونه لهذا النسيج المفكك أو الرخو. ما نوع الخلايا التي توجد فيه وما نوع الألياف التي توجد فيه، على ضوئها قسم إلى 5 أنواع. إذن لدينا 5 أنواع من الأنسجة الضامة الأصيلة المفككة، ولدينا هنا أيضا أنسجة ضامة أصيلة لكنها كثيفة، فيما بعد سنذكرها إن شاء الله. So now we come to the loose connective tissues. Loose connective tissues here, we will take here the first one mentioned in this table. First one here mentioned is the areolar connective tissue, which is a type of loose connective tissue. It is a loose connective tissue which is a part of connective tissue proper. Areolar connective tissue here, as it said in this table, it is the most common type. The most common type of connective tissue. That's why it is mentioned in the beginning, because it is the most common type of connective tissue. What do we find in this tissue? It has all types of fibers. It means all types of connective tissue fibers. That means we can find inside it the white, the yellow, and reticular fibers, all of them. And I should mention that the image here, it talks about the areolar connective tissue. Here it shows that this type of tissue has the 3 types of fibers: reticular, yellow, and white. So it has all types of fibers. And these fibers are found in various densities. Third, various types of connective tissue cells. Various types of connective tissue cells differentiate. The most common type of connective tissues is the areolar. It has all types of fibers in various densities. Also, it has various types of connective tissue cells differentiate inside it. إذن هذا النسيج أولا هو أكثر الأنسجة الضامة شيوعا موجودة في جسم الكائن الحي. ثانيا، تتميز فيه جميع أنواع الألياف موجودة فيه وبكثافات متباينة، وأيضا توجد فيه أغلب خلايا النسيج الضام، يتميز بوجود أغلب خلايا النسيج الضام فيه كما وضحنا هنا أغلب الخلايا النسيج الضام موجودة فيها. And this image here shows the areolar connective tissue, which has the various types of connective tissue cells, and it has all types of fibers, and it is the most common type of connective tissue. Here we want to know where can we find it, the location. Where can I find it? It is found beneath the skin. Here we have the skin. Beneath the skin is the areolar connective tissue. So it is found beneath the skin and also around the internal organs. Very important, the location. Where can I find it? For its function, it covers. What does it cover? It covers. What does it cover? It covers most of the body organs. Most of the body organs. Also, it covers blood vessels. It covers lymphatic vessels, and it covers nerves. It covers nerves, lymphatic vessels, blood vessels. All of them are covered by areolar connective tissue, and also it covers most of the body organs. Very important, the function and the location. إذا بالنسبة لي النسيج الضام هنا ذكرنا بالنسبة لي يحتوي على جميع أنواع الألياف ومعظم أنواع الخلايا النسيج الضام، وهو أكثر الأنسجة الضامة شيوعا، ويتميز بأنه يقع تحت الجلد وأيضا بين أعضاء الجسم المختلفة. ما وظيفته؟ يغلف. ماذا يغلف؟ معظم تراكيب الجسم. يغلف الأوعية الدموية، يغلف الأوعية الليمفاوية، يغلف الأعصاب، يغلفها جميعا. هذه جدا مهمة. ممكن السؤال يكون ما نوع النسيج الذي يغلف الأوعية الدموية، أو الذي يغلف الأوعية الليمفاوية، أو الذي يغلف الأعصاب، أو الذي يقع أو يغلف معظم تراكيب الجسم، أو الذي يقع بين أعضاء الجسم المختلفة، أو الذي يقع تحت الجلد. النسيج هو النسيج الضام الهللي، areolar الهللي. So the question was, what is the type of tissue that covers the blood vessels, covers the lymphatic vessels, covers the most of the body organs, covers the nerves, or that is found beneath the skin or around the internal organs? The answer would be the areolar connective tissue, which is a type of connective tissue proper. Now we come to the second type of connective tissue proper, which is loose connective tissue. The second one is the adipose connective tissue. النسيج الضام الشحمي أو الدهني. This type of tissue here has which type of cells? From its name, adipose. And we mentioned before we have adipose cells. So it has adipose cells. So the fat cells prevail in the adipose connective type of tissues. What does prevail in it? The most common type of cell is found in it is the fat cells. That means adipose prevail in it. إذن ما الذي يسود فيه؟ ما نوع الخلايا التي تسود فيه؟ هي الخلايا الدهنية. اسمه دهني لأنه مؤلف من الخلايا الدهنية التي هي إحدى أنواع خلايا نسيج الضم. Now, we come to the location. Where can I find it? Also, it is found beneath the skin. This is the skin. Beneath the skin we can find adipose connective tissue. And also it is located in a place where I can find that is responsible for fat storage and metabolism in the location of fat storage and metabolism. If the question was, mention the type of tissue that is found beneath the skin, the answer would be areolar connective tissue and the adipose connective tissue. Both of them are found beneath the skin. إذا بالنسبة إلى الموقع يوجد تحت الجلد ويوجد في مواقع خزن الدهون وأيضا الدهون أي بناء وهدم. أين أجد هذا النوع من النسيج؟ في أماكن التي تحتاج إلى خزن دهون في جسمنا أو في مناطق التي يحصل فيها بناء وهدم استخدام الدهون في أيضا الدهون. إذا كان السؤال ما نوع النسيج الذي يقع تحت الجلد في الامتحان، يكون الجواب نوعين من الأنسجة، النسيج الضام الهللي والنسيج الضام الشحمي، كلاهما توجد تحت الجلد. Now we come to the function. What is the function for this type of tissue? As we said, it has adipose cells, and that means the function of adipose cells here is the same function for the adipose connective tissue. So it stores fat, inside the fat droplet. Second, it generates energy and maintains body thermal balance. As we said before, for the adipose cell, stores fat, generates energy, maintains body thermal balance. And now we come to the third type of loose connective tissue, which is a type of connective tissue proper. It is the reticular connective tissue. Reticular connective tissue. From its name, reticular, we can know the type of fibers that it consists. Here it says that it is one of the primitive types of tissues. One of the primitive types of tissues. Reticular cells are dominant in this tissue. It says the types of tissue cells that I can find it inside it is the reticular cells. We mentioned the reticular cells here in page 48. We said that one type of connective tissue cells was the reticular cell. So it has reticular cells. That's why it's known as reticular connective tissue. So reticular cells prevail or are dominant in this type of tissue. Here it mentions that the type of matrix, the type of intercellular substance, it says here it has a liquid matrix. Its intercellular substance is liquid. It has a liquid matrix. We said the matrix we have 4 types, maybe liquid, semi-liquid, gelatinous or solid. Here in reticular connective tissue we can find the liquid matrix. So it is one of the primitive types of tissues. It has reticular cells that are dominant inside it, and it has a liquid matrix. Very important information. Now we come to its location and function. Location for reticular. Where can I find it? I mentioned before here reticular fibers. Yes, in this table it didn't mention it has reticular fibers, but really the reticular connective tissue has reticular fibers. And we mentioned we can find them inside the lymphatic nodes because it gives structural support. So here it mentions that the reticular connective tissue can be found in lymphatic organs. And where can I find it? In lymphatic organs. And we can find it inside the liver and also in the bone marrow. And this question here, sometimes it says, mention the type of tissue that is found in the liver or in the bone marrow. The type of tissue is reticular connective tissue. And its function here, as we mentioned before, it is support. For support, as in this table, it says it gives structural support. So the reticular connective tissue can be found in lymphatic organs, in the liver, in the bone marrow, and it is used here for supporting these types of tissues. So why is the reticular connective tissue found in the liver or in the bone marrow or in the lymphatic organs? Because it aids in the supporting, structural support for these types of tissues. And now we come to the 4th type of loose connective tissue, which is the mesenchymal connective tissue. From its name, mesenchymal, we had before mesenchymal cell. So it is composed of mesenchymal cells, which are undifferentiated cells. So here it says that this type of tissue, it is an undifferentiated tissue. Undifferentiated tissue, because it is consisted of undifferentiated cells. Its cells are embedded in a fluid intercellular substance. So here also it mentions the type of matrix. It has a fluid matrix. That means it is liquid. So when it asks about, give me an example for connective tissues or a tissue that has a liquid matrix, the answer would be reticular connective tissue and the mesenchymal connective tissue. Both of them has liquid intercellular substance or liquid matrix. Where can I find this type of tissue? It is found, location, as we said, it has mesenchymal cells, so it is found in early embryonic phase. In early embryonic phase. Maybe the question would be, in which phase or stage we can find each of the following, and it mentions mesenchymal connective tissue. In which phase we can find it? In the early embryonic phase. So it is found in early embryonic phase. Then this tissue will differentiate. To what does it differentiate? It differentiates to the various types of tissues in adults. We said it is composed of mesenchymal cells, which are undifferentiated, but then afterwards they will differentiate to form different types of connective tissue cells that the tissue needs. So that means also that the mesenchymal connective tissue that is composed of these cells, which is undifferentiated, but it will differentiate afterwards to any type of connective tissues when it is needed. So if the question was, what is the origin for the connective tissues, the different types of connective tissues as a tissue, not a cell, their answer would be mesenchymal connective tissue. So the location is in early embryonic phase. That will differentiate afterwards in various types of tissues in adults. So the function here is it differentiates to form various types of tissues in the body. This is its function. إذن نوضح بالنسبة للنسيج السابق، نسيج الضام الشبكي. ذكرنا هذا النسيج النسيج الضام نعم الشبكي. هنا هذا النسيج هو يعتبر من الأنسجة الضامة البدائية، وتسود فيه الخلايا الشبكية، والمادة البينية له تكون سائلة. وهذا النسيج الضام الشبكي أين نجده؟ في الأعضاء الليمفاوية، في الكبد، وفي نخاع العظم. ما دوره في هذه الأعضاء؟ يساعد في عملية الإسناد. إذا النسيج الضام الشبكي يحتوي على خلايا شبكية، لذلك هو شبكي. أما النسيج الضام الدهني أو الشحمي يحتوي على خلايا شحمية أو دهنية. أما بالنسبة للنسيج هنا الضام المتوسط أو الميزنكيمي، هذا النسيج هو عبارة عن نسيج ضام غير متخصص، لأنه يحتوي على خلايا نسيج خلايا الحشوية المتوسطة، الخلايا الميزنكيمية التي هي أصلا غير متمايزة، فيتألف منها. إذن هو نسيج غير متمايز، وتوجد فيه خلايا التي هي الخلايا الميزنكيمية، وأيضا المادة البينية فيه تكون مادة سائلة. الموقع أين نجد هذا النوع من النسيج؟ في المراحل الجنينية المبكرة، ثم بعد ذلك سوف يتخصص إلى أي نوع من أنواع الأنسجة الضامة المطلوبة في الجسم. إذن منشأ الأنسجة الضامة هو النسيج الميزنكيمي. الوظيفة بالنسبة لهذا النسيج فإنه سوف يتمايز ليعطي أي نوع من أنواع الأنسجة المتخصصة في جسم الكائن الحي. The last type of loose connective tissue is the mucoid connective tissue. Mucoid connective tissue. This tissue here is composed of fibroblasts. So here it mentions the types of cells that is composed. It is composed of fibroblast. We mentioned before the fibroblast, which is the first type of connective tissue cells. We said it is responsible for the formation of the different types of fibers. And we mentioned its shape. We said that it has stretches, and from the lateral we can see that it shows a fusiform or spindle shaped. But when we look at it from the top, it shows that it has long stretches and it has a star-like appearance, as I showed here, a star-like appearance. So that means here I can say that the fibroblast has a star-like appearance because it has been mentioned in the table. So it is composed of fibroblasts that has a star-like appearance. Maybe the question would be, give me an example for a star-like connective tissue cell. The answer would be the fibroblast, which is embedded in a matrix, and the matrix here is gelatinous. Gelatin matrix. So here in this table, it mentioned the type of matrix. For the mucoid connective tissue, it is gelatinous. For the mesenchymal and reticular connective tissue, both of them showed liquid type of matrix. If the question was mention tissue which has gelatinous matrix, the answer would be the mucoid connective tissue. If the question was mention tissue which has a liquid matrix, the answer would be reticular connective tissue or mesenchymal connective tissue. Now we come to the location. Location for the mucoid connective tissue, it is found in the umbilical cord. Umbilical cord. It has a gelatinous matrix. Also, it is function is to support. It is used for supporting the umbilical cord. Its function is support. If the question was mention connective tissue that is used for supporting, the answer would be mucoid connective tissue and reticular connective tissue. Both of them are used for supporting. So now we have mentioned 5 types of loose connective tissue. Loose connective tissue. We took the areola and the adipose, reticular, mesenchymal, and mucoid connective tissue. All these tissues are loose connective tissues which are part of the connective tissue proper. Sometimes the question would be compare between the mesenchymal and reticular, or the mucoid and reticular, or maybe between areola and adipose, and so on. Sometimes the question would be comparing or mention the type of cells, as mention the type of cells that are found in the reticular connective tissue. The type of cells here are reticular cells. The cells in the mucoid are fibroblasts. The cells inside the adipose connective tissue is the adipose cells. The cells in the areolar connective tissues is various types of connective tissue cells. If the question was mention a connective tissue that has all 3 types of fibers, the answer would be the areolar connective tissue, and so on. Maybe it asks about the function or the location for these type of tissues. And all these images are for study. So the student is not responsible for drawing them in the exam. And we will end the lecture with mentioning the second type of connective tissue proper, which is the dense connective tissue. So the second type of connective tissue proper is the dense connective tissue. It is classified according to density of continuous of its fibers. إذا ننهي الدرس بذكر النوع الثاني من النسيج الضام الأصيل، وهي الأنسجة نسيج الضام الكثيف. هنا نسيج الضام الرخو، وهنا النسيج الضام الكثيف. يصنف النسيج الضام الكثيف تبعا لكثافة الألياف فيه، depending on the density of its consistence of fibers, into two types. The first one is dense collagenous. That means white connective tissue. And the second one is dense elastic, which is the yellow connective tissue. So the dense connective tissue has only two types, classified into two types: dense collagenous or dense elastic, depending on the density of the fibers that it has inside it. Really, I think it's the type of fibers, because here it has white fibers, while here it has yellow fibers. But it says here, the classification here depended on the density of its constants of fibers. That means the density of fibers it has. So we have dense collagenous and dense elastic. إذن بالنسبة للنسيج الضام، هنا الكثيف الذي هو أحد أنواع الأنسجة الضامة الأصيلة، يتألف من أو يقسم إلى نوعين اعتمادا على كثافة الألياف فيه، لكن في الحقيقة هي حسب نوع الألياف فيه. إذا كانت الألياف فيه بيضاء فيكون كولاجينس، وإذا كانت الألياف فيه صفراء فيكون إلاستيك. لكن بما أنه مذكور في المنهج اعتماد على كثافة الألياف، إذن سوف نعتمد على نفس المعلومة المذكورة في المنهج. Dense collagenous connective tissue here the dense collagenous here has the collagenous fibers are dominant inside it. This type here, the dense, has collagenous fibers are dominant inside it. So these fibers may be regular or irregular, if they were regular or irregular. If they were regular, so they can be found in the tendons. If they were irregular, so they will be found in the skin dermis. So the dense collagenous connective tissue can be regular or irregular. Example for regular are the tendons. Example for irregular is skin dermis. Here we can see in this image regular dense connective tissue. Where can I find the regular? We said in the tendons. Here it shows how they are regular. Tendons usually connect the muscle to the bone. When we have bones here, we have the muscle here is connected to the bone. What connects this muscle to the bones? What connects it here are the tendons. Here is the tendon. The tendons have regular, dense connective tissue. When it asks about the type of connective tissue in the tendons, the answer would be regular, dense connective tissue, which is a type of connective tissue proper. Here we have regular, but the irregular dense connective tissue is found here. This is a part of the skin. It shows here how the collagenous fibers are in bundles, but they are not irregular. Not regular. So the skin dermis has in skin dermis we have irregular, the type of tissue irregular, dense connective tissue. When the question is give me the type of tissue in each of the following. The skin dermis, the answer would be irregular dense connective tissue, while for the tendons is regular dense connective tissue. So the type of fibers inside the dense collagenous tissue is collagenous fibers, while the type of fibers inside the dense elastic connective tissue is elastic or yellow fibers. So what is dominant in the dense elastic connective tissue? The yellow fibers. So here it has yellow fibers, while the dense collagenous has collagenous fibers. Where can I find this type of tissue? It is found in the ligaments. This here is found in the ligaments, especially in the cervical ligament. It has the dense elastic connective tissue. When it asks, name the type of tissue in the cervical ligament, the answer would be dense elastic connective tissue. And here it shows the dense elastic connective tissue. This tissue here is found in the ligaments. The difference between ligaments and tendons. The tendons here, as I said before, it connects the muscle to the bone. But what connects bone to the other bone? Connection between bones. Here we need ligaments. So the ligaments connect between two bones, while the tendons connects between the muscle and the bone. That is the difference between the ligament and tendon. And as we said, the ligament is composed of dense elastic connective tissue. That means it has yellow fibers, while the tendons has regular dense connective tissue. إذن بالنسبة للنسيج الضام الكثيف هنا عبارة عن نوعين. النسيج الضام هنا الأبيض الكثيف، وهنا النسيج الضام الأصفر الكثيف. بالنسبة للنسيج الضام الأبيض تسود فيه الألياف البيض، وأيضا نجده بنوعين، منتظم وغير منتظم. المنتظم في الأوتار وغير المنتظم في أدمة الجلد. المنتظم في الأوتار، والتي الأوتار هي التي تربط العضلة بالعظم، وغير المنتظم نجده تحت الجلد، تحديدا في أدمة الجلد، في أدمة الجلد وليس تحت الجلد، مثلا في أدمة الجلد سكن دامس. أما بالنسبة للنسيج الضام الأصفر الكثيف فهذا يحتوي على الألياف الصفر ويوجد في الروابط أي الأربطة. أين يوجد الأربطة؟ الأربطة هي التي تربط العظام مع بعض، أما الأوتار هي تربط العضلة بالعظم. الأربطة تربط العظام مع بعض، والمثال لدينا هنا هو الرابط القفوي الموجود في منطقة العنق هنا. هذا الرابط يحتوي على الألياف الصفر الكثيف، النسيج الضام الأصفر الكثيف. إذن كما ذكرت للتمييز بين الوتر والأربطة، الأربطة تربط العظام، أما الأوتار تربط العضلة مع العظم. الأربطة تحتوي على النسيج الضام الأصفر الكثيف، أما الوتر يحتوي على النسيج الضام الأبيض الكثيف المنتظم، لأن غير المنتظم يوجد في أدمة الجلد. وهنا أيضا سؤال مهم، عندما يكون مع نوع النسيج في أدمة الجلد، أي جزء من الجلد لكن منطقة الأدمة، لأن الجلد يحتوي على الأدمة ويحتوي على لدينا أيضا البشرة. فإذا أدمة الجلد نوع النسيج هو نسيج يكون هنا نسيج ضام أبيض كثيف لكنه يكون غير منتظم. أما إذا كان السؤال عن نوع النسيج الذي يوجد تحت الجلد فهو عندنا النسيج الأريولر، وتحت الجلد أيضا الأديبوز. إذن هنا فرق إذا كان نوع النسيج تحت الجلد أو في أدمة الجلد. وإذا كان السؤال مع نوع النسيج في البشرة التي هي أيضا جزء من الجلد، لما يسأل عن نوع النسيج في البشرة فيكون الجواب هنا، هذه بالنسبة للبشرة، بالنسبة للإنسان أيضا، فهذه هنا يكون الذي هو نسيج ليس ضاما وإنما نسيج ظهاري أو نقول عليه طلائي. وهذا النوع من النسيج هو نسيج ظهاري مطبق حرشفي متقارن. هذا. So when the question is mention the type of cells or type of tissue in the skin epidermis, the answer would be the keratinized stratified squamous epithelial tissue. But if it asks about the type of tissue beneath the skin, the answer would be areola and adipose. If the question was about the type of tissue in the skin dermis, the answer would be irregular, dense, collagenous, connective tissue. And in the end here, we're going to mention the connective tissues are connective tissue proper and special connective tissue. Connective tissue proper is classified into loose and dense. Loose are 5, while the dense are 2. Afterwards, in the next lecture, we, if God wills, we will take the special connective tissue, and the special connective tissue are only 4. The first one is the cartilage, the second one is the bone. They are special connective tissues: cartilage, bone, and blood and lymph. And that's all for the special connective tissue: cartilage, bone, blood and lymph. After that we will complete the connective, all the types of connective tissues. So we have reached the end of our lecture, and goodbye for now. إذن وصلنا إلى نهاية درسنا لهذا اليوم.